All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking into corporate tax avoidance. You know how those big companies seem to legally dodge massive tax bills?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a sensitive topic, you could say.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We've got some really interesting articles here. Some on U.S. corporations, some on U.K. companies.
Right.
And get this, we've even got some thoughts from a tax haven expert, Nicholas Shaxson. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I've come across his work. He's got some interesting perspectives on this whole tax haven thing.
For sure. So today, I guess our mission, should we call it a mission, is to really figure out how these companies pull it off, how it affects us regular taxpayers, and we'll even dip our toes into the history of the city of London a little.
Sounds like a plan. Buckle up, folks.
Right. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so this stat just blew my mind. 20 profitable S&P 500 companies, they paid absolutely zero federal taxes back in the second quarter of 2014. We're talking big names here like Merck, General Motors, Seagate. These aren't, your corner store businesses. So how can a company be profitable but pay zero in taxes? Explain it to me.
Well, the key here is they're not breaking any laws. It's all legal. They're not evading taxes. They're avoiding them. It's all about using clever strategies and finding those loopholes.
Right.
One way they do this is by shifting their profits to, well, countries with much lower tax rates.
Ah, so playing the global tax game, huh?
You got it.
Yeah.
Remember Merck talked about those beneficial impact of foreign earnings?
Yeah.
Well, that's usually a sign they're moving money to where the taxes are, shall we say, more favorable.
Interesting. So besides this profit shifting thing, what other tricks do they have up their sleeves?
Well, sometimes they take advantage of these one-time tax benefits, from some pretty specific financial moves, like take Merck again, their deal with AstraZeneca. That resulted in a pretty significant one-time tax benefit.
So it's not always shady business. It's more about knowing how to play the system.
Right, exactly. They're making these complex financial moves, often, with good business reasons behind them, but those tax implications, they're a huge part of the decision-making process.
It makes you wonder, though, if these big players aren't paying their fair share, who is?
That's the million-dollar question.
Is it us regular folks picking up the slack?
It's certainly worth considering.
It is. Okay, let's talk about Seagate for a second. They've been pretty good at keeping their taxes low, too, even getting tax benefits some years.
Right.
They mentioned something about a reversal of valuation allowances, I think it was. I'll be honest, I didn't quite grasp that one.
Yeah, it's an accounting thing, pretty complicated, but basically it lets them lower their taxes because of some previous accounting adjustments. And here's the kicker. Seagate's main company, it's actually based in Ireland.
Oh, Ireland.
And Ireland's known for its, well, let's say, friendly corporate tax rates.
I see. So location. It matters in taxes, too.
It plays a big role.
Makes you wonder, how much does where you set up shop actually matter?
Oh, it's a big deal.
Okay. So this isn't just an American thing then, right? What about over in the UK? Are they dealing with the same stuff?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, 6 of Britain's top 10 companies, despite making billions globally, they paid zero corporation tax in 2014.
Wait, seriously? 6 out of the top 10. So are you telling me those companies gave nothing back to the UK tax system?
Well, it's not that straightforward, but it does highlight a major issue with how corporation tax works. It's all about the profits a company declares within that country.
Right.
If they can move their profits and expenses around internationally, and they often can, well, they can minimize their tax burden in those higher tax countries like the UK.
Okay, so companies like Shell, they made what, almost 20 billion pounds globally?
Nearly.
They can end up paying zero in the UK.
That's exactly what happened in 2014. And it wasn't just Shell. Vodafone and AstraZeneca, huge companies, right?
Yeah.
They declared zero taxable profits in the UK that year. They structured things so, at least on paper, they had no taxable profits there.
I got to be honest, it's a little frustrating. Almost feels like the system is rigged against us, the everyday folks.
It's certainly a system that benefits those who can navigate its complexities.
Right.
And to understand just how big this is, we need to look beyond that image of, tax havens as just those sunny islands.
Right, yeah. I was picturing CEOs sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere.
That's the stereotype, but the reality is way more complex.
Okay, so what's the real deal with these tax havens?
Well, this is where Nicholas Shaxson comes in. He argues that those big financial centers, like the City of London, they're big players too.
Really?
They use legal loopholes just like those tropical islands, helping corporations and individuals lower their taxes.
So the City of London, the heart of British finance, is acting like a hidden tax haven, right under everyone's noses.
That's one way to look at it. The city's a separate jurisdiction within the UK, its own laws, its own privileges. It goes way back, to its history as the financial capital of the British Empire. And get this, corporations have voting rights in city elections.
No way. So they have a say in how the city's run.
Yeah, I mean, Goldman Sachs, the investment bank, they have a voice in city politics.
Wow, I never knew that. So we've got this financial powerhouse operating with its own rules, attracting businesses from all over, and then within it, companies are using these complex tricks to avoid paying their fair share. It's a lot to process, to be honest.
It certainly raises some questions about fairness, and who really benefits from these rules. But to really understand this, we've got to dig deeper into this tax haven idea beyond those palm trees and beaches.
Okay, let's do it. Let's peel back the layers of those tax havens.
All right, let's go. When these wealthy companies and individuals, when they avoid paying their taxes, well, the burden shifts, doesn't it?
Yeah, to us, right? To the average taxpayer.
Yeah, exactly. And that means less funding for those essential public services, things like healthcare and education, even infrastructure, all the things that make for a healthy society.
So we all end up paying the price for these fancy tax avoidance schemes.
In a way, yeah. And it's not just some, theoretical problem either. Remember those UK uncut protests?
Yeah, vaguely. Remind me.
Well, those were all about, people were angry, big corporations dodging taxes while these vital services were being cut. It really showed that disconnect between the financial elite and, everyone else struggling to get by.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just about numbers. It's about real-world consequences for all of us.
For sure. And this impact, it goes beyond just, developed nations like the UK. Think about countries with lots of resources, developing countries like Nigeria, for instance.
Okay.
They might generate, a ton of wealth from those resources, but a big chunk of it gets siphoned off through those tax havens and those complex financial arrangements. So the people, the citizens, they don't really see the benefits.
So even when a country's got valuable stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean the people actually benefit if it's all getting diverted through these tax havens.
Sadly, that's often the case. It contributes to this cycle of poverty and inequality, and tax havens, they play a key role in that.
Okay, I see. So it's not just about public services being cut. It's a much bigger issue than that.
It really is.
What about the economy as a whole? Does this tax avoidance stuff have wider economic consequences?
Oh, absolutely. You get this rise of, what they call economic rent and these property bubbles fueled by what economists call hot money inflows.
Okay, break that down for me. Economic rent and hot money inflows, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so instead of that money, being invested in things that create jobs that benefit the economy broadly, it often ends up in more speculative things like real estate.
Ah, okay.
Which drives up prices, creates these artificial bubbles.
So it's like inflating a balloon that's just going to burst eventually?
Exactly. And when it does, guess who gets hurt the most?
Regular people. The ones who can least afford it.
Right. It just makes existing inequalities even worse. Makes it that much harder for people to achieve any kind of financial stability.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And all this, while smaller businesses, the ones that really drive a lot of economies, they're trying to compete with these mega corporations that can afford to play all these tax games.
That's a huge issue. Smaller businesses often don't have the resources or the expertise to deal with these complex international tax laws. They're playing on a totally different field.
Right. It's almost like, if these companies are legally minimizing their taxes, maybe the rules themselves are the problem.
That's a big question, isn't it? Some people argue the system's just flawed. It gives corporations too much leeway to shift profits around and avoid paying what they should. They say we need to completely rethink these international tax rules.
So a system where companies are taxed based on where they actually make their money, not where they decide to make it appear on paper.
Exactly, but that would require, countries working together and a willingness to really challenge these powerful corporations, which, let's be honest, isn't easy.
Yeah, these corporations, they have a lot of power and influence. It feels like a David and Goliath kind of situation.
It is, but public awareness, activism, those can make a difference. Remember UK Uncut?
Yeah, yeah.
They brought this whole issue into the spotlight, made politicians pay attention.
So you're saying people power can actually change things.
Yeah, for sure. When people demand accountability, when they demand transparency, governments have to listen. The more we understand how the system works, who benefits, the more pressure there'll be for real change.
That's pretty empowering.
Yeah.
So what can we do as individuals to help make the tax system fair?
Well, first of all, stay informed. Read up on it. Follow organizations like the Tax Justice Network. Talk about it. The more you understand the complexities of this whole corporate tax avoidance thing, the better you can, advocate for change.
Knowledge is power, right?
That's right. And don't underestimate the power of your own voice. Talk to your friends, your family, share stuff on social media, contact your elected officials. Let them know you care about this. The more people speak out, the harder it is for governments to ignore it.
So it's about raising awareness, educating ourselves, and making our voices heard.
Got it. Exactly. And remember, you've also got power as a consumer. You can choose to support those businesses that are upfront about their tax practices and support those policies that promote responsible corporate behavior.
Right. Every little bit helps.
Exactly. Every action, no matter how small, can contribute to a more just system.
This has been quite a deep dive. We've uncovered some pretty shocking stuff about corporate tax avoidance, looked at how it all works, and hopefully inspired our listeners to take action.
It's a complex issue, but it's not hopeless. There's this growing movement for change, led by people who want a fairer and more transparent system.
I know this is a lot to take in, a lot of information.
It is.
But for those who want to dig a little deeper, we've actually got some great resources, some places you can go to learn more about this whole thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you're ready to really dive into the nitty-gritty, the Tax Justice Network, that's a great place to start. Their website's got tons of information, reports, articles, even a blog that breaks down those complex ideas into, something easier to understand.
Yeah, it's a good starting point if you want to really get the full picture of what's going on.
For sure. And for a UK-specific view, the Guardian actually did a really good series on the UK's tax gap, the difference between what should be collected and what actually is. Yeah. It's pretty eye-opening. It really shows you the scale of this tax avoidance happening, right here.
And if you're in the mood for some serious investigative journalism, you got to check out Private Eye. They've done some amazing work exposing, some of those questionable practices of corporations and the sometimes cozy relationship between big business and the government.
Oh yeah, their coverage of that Vodafone case, that was fantastic. They really challenged Vodafone's claims and really got into the whole murky world of offshore finance.
And of course, we've got to mention Richard Murphy.
Oh, absolutely.
Leading tax expert.
Yeah.
His blog is full of great analysis and commentary on all the latest tax policy stuff.
He's brilliant at explaining the technical side of tax avoidance and looking at possible solutions.
For sure. So there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the often hidden world of corporate tax avoidance. We've uncovered some pretty unsettling stuff, looked at how it all works, and hopefully you feel a little bit empowered to do something about it.
Yeah, it's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about the kind of society we want to live in, one that's built on fairness, on justice, a system where everyone contributes their fair share.
Absolutely. So the choice is yours. Do you stay silent and let this system keep going? Or do you join the movement for a fairer, more transparent tax system?
Every voice matters. We raise awareness, we demand transparency, we hold those in power accountable, and we can build a world where everyone pays their fair share, a world where the benefits of economic prosperity, they're shared more fairly.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that wraps up this deep dive. We hope you found it informative, maybe a little bit engaging, even a little infuriating. Yes. But go out there, spread the word, and let's work together to build a system that works for everyone, not just a select few.